My Beloved Son. Story by Lawiet Oz. Chapter 1, How I Met Her. Say it. Just say the word. Just ask me, and I'll stay, said the girl of my dreams, literally looking straight into my eyes. I stayed silent, just staring at her. I think in that moment, my eyes said far more than any words ever could. I closed my eyes and began to remember everything we had been through, from where it all started up to this very moment. So many precious memories, yet so little time. Disclaimer: My Little Pony, MLP, does not belong to me. I only write this for the fans' entertainment and my own. Or rather, I was just a high school student in my 5th semester. I live in the northern part of the country, specifically in the state of Sonora. I'm not complaining about it, but honestly, I would have preferred to live where I was born, back in Mexico City. Though, where I live has little to do with what happened to me during all this time. To be fair, I don't like telling half stories or lying, especially not in a case like this. I actually need to make a decision, so I'll try to be as objective as I can. I haven't told you much about myself, just where I live and what I do. So, hello, imaginary friend. Now more than ever, even more than when I was a kid hiding from clowns, spiders, and the dark, I need you. I need you here to help me make this choice, because I don't even know what to think anymore. I remember heading over to a friend's house to pick up some papers. Truth be told, I didn't need them, but I really wanted them back. See, my not yet dear imaginary friend, in the very, very distant future, I want to be a writer. I know my parents are completely against me majoring in it because they think I'll starve to death. They think that because they have a cousin who majored in literature, and she almost, and I mean almost literally, starved to death. So before I can pursue that, I have to get a real degree, get a job, and only then become an official writer. Setting that aside, my not yet dear imaginary friend, I remember the day this all started, or rather, the day before it all started. Because you can't really begin a story at the beginning without fully understanding it first. As I was saying, that day I was walking to the house of a friend, if you could call her that. I usually call her Eclipse, mostly because of her obsession with astronomical phenomena. She usually calls me Virtual because I once crashed our middle school network. But let's not dwell on silly things. I didn't do it on purpose, and I wouldn't even know how to do it again. Nicknames aside, since there are plenty of others I absolutely hate, like nothing, in class I once made the fatal mistake of saying, either call me by my name or nothing, so they started calling me Nothing, Useless, Malnutrition, because I'm worse than Hunger, Devil, and finally, Freak. If you spend enough time with me, my actions will probably speak for themselves and explain each one. I arrived at her house and waited outside for her to come out. I'm not big on going into other people's houses unless I'm invited in first. Besides, I've never had that kind of trust with anyone. Not to mention, I stick to a family motto: friends stay outside the front door, family stays inside. Following the traditions imposed on me, or at least this one, since I don't follow all of them, I waited outside for her to bring out my papers. They were mostly drawings, not that I was an amazing artist or anything. I just liked doing it whenever I had the time or inspiration. Just like writing, though I only write when I feel the need to. When she finally came out, she was holding my folder containing all my drawings and several personal writings. Here you go, Virtual. That's all of them, Eclipse said, handing me the folder. Did you check? You didn't leave any of your stuff inside, right? I asked, opening the folder. Before I could stop her, Eclipse snatched it back, which I really didn't want to happen. The folder slipped, hitting the ground and scattering my drawings everywhere. To make matters worse, her sister happened to walk by right at that moment and saw a few spicy sketches of various characters. She huffed in annoyance, opened the gate, and walked inside with her usual terrible attitude. You said we were going out today. Where are we going? Eclipse asked after helping me gather the papers and handing the folder back. To the library, I replied, stuffing the folder into my backpack and starting to walk. I wasn't carrying much in my bag, just my notebook, something to write with, whatever book I was reading at the time, my keys, and maybe a snack or two depending on whether it was summer or winter. I didn't want my stuff getting sticky or messy. We took the bus and got off at a shortcut in front of a grain and livestock feed factory. We crossed a few streets and reached the public library. Before heading inside, I stopped by the cafe to grab a coffee and went out to the park across the street. Eclipse stayed behind. She wanted to stay inside the library. I laid down on the grass and started meditating to the rhythm of Viva La Vida by Coldplay. I was completely lost in my own infinite world, immersed in my thoughts, my life, and my own business, until I saw a white figure flying across the sky. In my daydream, I thought it was falling. Then I noticed something lying on the ground beside me. It was a feather so long it seemed almost impossible for it to exist. On top of that, it gave off a scent. A perfume so perfect. I'm allergic to perfume by choice, meaning I absolutely hate it, but this one had something special to it, an air of elegance and purity. I started walking back toward the library, but for some reason, I couldn't get that white object falling from the sky out of my head. Did you see anything while you were reading? I asked Eclipse, scaring her half to death since she was actually concentrating on her book. That was rare for her, as she usually lost interest in things quickly, just like me. But we were opposites when it came to reading. I could completely lose myself in any book, while she couldn't focus at all. To be honest, I haven't looked at the window once, she replied, turning to look at me. You're really hooked on that book, aren't you? I asked, playfully pulling it from her hands. Actually, yet. But I don't have the money to buy it, she said, pulling her signature puppy dog eyes. It's on the sale rack at half price, she added, smiling at me as if trying to persuade me. I'd buy it for you, but it comes with a price, I said, hinting at a kiss. Even though she was just my friend, I had been curious about what kissing her felt like ever since she told me that, somewhere in her deepest dreams, she had loved me. Not in this lifetime, she snapped, getting up and putting the book back where it belonged. Please. I whined in a little kid voice, purely to annoy her even more. I said no. You already cheated on your boyfriend once. Why not cheat on him again with me? Go to hell, she yelled. Her shout got us both kicked out of the library for the day, which wasn't unusual for me. A classmate of mine worked there, and just to mess with me, she'd throw me out over the smallest thing. Besides, it wasn't the first time I got in trouble there anyway. My sister had a habit of borrowing library books permanently, and since we were registered under the same parent, my mom, I always ended up having to return them. Why did you cheat on your boyfriend anyway? I asked, stoking the fire. None of your business, she snapped. And yet, I did, but I'm never doing it again. Ever. And especially not with you. It is my business. I told you I liked you a week before you did it. I shouted back, feigning anger. So what? I cheated on him, not you, she yelled even louder, drawing looks from people around us. It still hurt. I yelled back, staring right at her. After arguing for a moment with my only friend, we decided to drop it. Let's just drop it. I'll call you later, I said. That only made her angrier. I didn't mean to push her that far, but I knew she'd get over it in a few days. Frankly, I couldn't care less. After that, I headed to a literary party. I put that in quotes because all we really did was get drunk and talk about books. I also put drunk in quotes because, to be honest with you, my not yet dear imaginary friend, a single tiny glass of eggnog isn't going to get me drunk. Legally, that shouldn't even count as alcohol. It's only got 4% to 6% ABV. Despite that, they forced me to recite one of my famous writings, since everyone in the club seemed to like my stuff, which leads me to believe they have terrible taste. Honestly, I had fun with the club members. I was a bit worried things would be awkward because Eclipse was supposed to go too. She goes to my high school, though she's a freshman, but in the end, she didn't show up. Anyway, I won't bore you with more details about that day. I left the party around 8 p.m. and took the city bus home, arriving at 9:30 p.m. The moment I stepped inside my house, pure terror hit me. My mom was parodying Star Wars, turning around dramatically like the Emperor facing Luke. Looking back, it's funny, but right then, it scared the life out of me. She gave me one of the worst scoldings of my young life. After listening to her lecture for half an hour, I went straight to my room. I pulled out the feather I had found, snapped a ballpoint pen, and poured the ink into a small jar. I grabbed a piece of paper and wrote, "What are you? Where are you from? What do you mean?" When I finished writing, I laughed at myself for writing to a feather as if it could actually understand me. To get it out of my head, I opened my laptop and started searching based on the feather's dimensions. Half an hour passed. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I just sat there, staring at it, until I made up my mind. "I'm going out," I told my mom. She was reading a botany book I had lent her. She works at a plant nursery, which is essentially a giant flower shop focused more on plant care and distribution than just selling flowers. My dad, on the other hand, is the head of security for a major company in the area. "You don't have permission," she replied. "I forgot something at the library, and if I don't get it, I won't be able to do my weekend homework. It's really important." I lied, trying to make it sound urgent. "I don't believe you," she said. She knew me way too well. "I'm also picking up something for dinner. What do you want me to bring you?" I added, instantly getting her approval. One of my mom's weaknesses is food, the other is using the classic line, "You don't love me, you love your brother/sister more." I ran into my dad and sister at the front door. After a brief interrogation from my dad, "Where are you off to, son?" "Forgot something at the library, plus I'm grabbing dinner." "You want anything?" "No," he said, letting me pass. "I want fries," my sister called out before I could leave on my bicycle. Riding a bike at night wasn't very safe, and my mom must have realized it because she tossed me the keys to the family motorcycle along with a threat. "It's 9:40 p.m. If you're not back by 11 p.m., you're sleeping outside." I call it the family motorcycle because it has a sidecar attached to it. I didn't argue or push my luck. I was hungry, and I needed to figure out where that feather came from. Maybe it belonged to some undiscovered species. Maybe it would make me rich and famous, fame, fortune, money, boats, and broads. Okay, maybe not the last part, but you get the idea. I rode slowly toward the grain factory where I had seen the white figure fall. I parked the bike near the factory fence since it was safer there, and started walking along the train tracks nearby. I turned on a flashlight, but quickly decided to turn it off. It might spook whatever animal I was looking for, plus it made me an easy target for muggers. A little further down, I started seeing tracks. Horse tracks? I searched a bit more, even turning my flashlight back on to confirm and take a photo with my phone. My eyes weren't playing tricks on me. Was I really tracking a Pegasus? A unicorn? I walked a couple more kilometers, guided by the train tracks after the hoof prints faded. I strained my ears, listening closely to the dark. When I reached the woods, I found the tracks again, and this time, something else. It was a shoe, sized for a hoof, but made entirely of solid gold. That made it surprisingly heavy. Gold has a high density, so if a golden object feels heavy, it means it's pure. I decided to pocket it, head back for the motorcycle, and ride into the woods. It was already 10:20 p.m. by the time I got back to where I found the golden horseshoe. I covered the bike and sidecar with some branches to hide them. There were plenty of vagrants in that part of town and ventured deeper into the forest. I searched and searched, but there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. I sat down on a log to think. That was when I saw a pair of eyes watching me from the dark. Our eyes met, and then they vanished into a white shadow, as weird as that sounds. I gave chase, trying to make as little noise as possible. And to no one's surprise, I got completely lost. Suddenly, I felt someone touch my shoulder. I spun around as fast as I could. Sure enough, something had touched my shoulder, a massive spider. I don't know how or when, but I fainted right then and there out of sheer terror, falling hard onto the train tracks. The last thing I heard before passing out was the distant rumble of an oncoming train. When I woke up, I was sitting near a campfire. I saw a Pegasus with a horn. She was going through my backpack, casually eating my chocolate. We locked eyes again. She looked ready to bolt. But I quickly spoke up. "I won't hurt you," I said. And I meant it at that point. My curiosity had completely overridden my fear. The horse didn't answer and looked even more eager to run. My brain was working at 100 miles an hour. In a split second, I tossed her another chocolate bar from my pocket. As she stepped closer, I noticed she moved awkwardly. Looking closer in the dim firelight, I realized her wing and leg were injured. Ignoring the pounding headache in my skull, I tried speaking in near-perfect German. "Warden Sie, nicht gehen," I stammered. "Wait, don't go." That language actually seemed to catch her interest. She replied in a tongue that sounded like a mix of German and the rushing water of a river. "Sie sprechen dies Sprach sehr schlecht," she said. "You speak this language very poorly." I couldn't understand everything she said, but I caught speak, poorly, and language. "Please, I don't want to hurt you. I can heal your wing," I said, switching back to Spanish. She answered with crystal clarity, the river-like sounds completely gone from her voice. "Leave. You never saw me. Why save my life if you're just going to leave?" I asked. She turned back to look at me. I sat there, stunned by what was standing in front of me. "I wanted to help you, scaredy cat," she replied, chuckling at the end. I didn't find the joke very funny. Spiders are genuinely terrifying, so I kept talking. "You saved me from dying in the woods, or getting run over on those tracks. Let me help you." She approached me, one eyebrow raised. I was amazed at how expressive her face could be. Suddenly, a golden aura erupted from her horn. It surrounded my head, and slowly, my headache faded away until it was completely gone. "You fell on the tracks and hit your head. Does it still hurt?" she asked, ending the spell. "The train would have killed me if it weren't for you," I said. I reached into my bag, pulled out the golden horseshoe and her feather, and held them out. "Your wing is hurt, and you need this. It's my turn to help you." To be honest, my insistence was driven far more by overwhelming curiosity than pure empathy. And anyone who doesn't believe me can shove it. "Tell me, where am I?" she asked, appearing a bit more willing to stay. "Planet Earth, the continent of America, in a country called Mexico. You fell with that flash of light, didn't you?" I asked, turning the interrogation around. "Yes." "What year is this?" "Early 21st century. Mid-2010s, I answered, looking into her striking purple eyes. "What?" she gasped, instantly turning hysterical. This was supposed to be just one of my normal getaways. She started pacing and muttering to herself about magic mirrors, different planets, and other completely unreal things. "I shouldn't be here," she said, looking back at me. "You think?" I replied with pure sarcasm. But to avoid getting kicked by a hoof, I quickly added, "Your species doesn't exist here. We have horses, sure, but none with wings or horns. And there's something else you need to know." "What?" she cried, on the verge of a panic attack. Seeing her distress, I stepped forward and pulled her into a hug. It was what I would have wanted if I ever found myself lost in an alien world. Look, if what you did earlier was magic, it doesn't exist in this world. That makes your presence here extremely rare and dangerous. People of my species might try to harm you to steal that power. So, I suggest you take shelter at my house. She reluctantly agreed after a moment. What's your name? I asked. Celestia, she answered quietly. I repeated the name in my head, savoring the sound of it. And just like that, I convinced her to follow me home. I opened the sidecar door for her and started driving. Who hurt you? I asked as we rode. Nobody. I was running from an animal and snagged myself on a branch. Are animals less rational here? I almost laughed at the question. She was an animal, after all, but to avoid offending her, I just nodded. My species is a lot less rational, too. Why do you say that? If people saw you talk, they'd probably kill you and stuff you in a museum to study you. She went quiet for a moment. Thank you, then. Though I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. We arrived home after a 10-minute ride. Most of it was spent in silence, aside from a quick detour to a pharmacy to buy medical supplies for her wing. As expected, I was locked out, but I knew how to get in. I paused, thinking, how am I going to get her inside? More importantly, where do I hide her? The answer came instantly, my bedroom. I let out a heavy sigh. She must have noticed, because she looked at me with concern. Is something wrong? No, I'm just exhausted. It's been a long day, I replied. I parked the bike and pointed. Stay here. I retrieved the spare key buried in a flower pot outside the front door and unlocked the house. I tiptoed inside, trying not to make a sound. The last thing I needed was to get caught or worse, for them to find her. Which almost happened anyway, when I nearly had a heart attack seeing her standing right in the middle of my living room. Celestia's perspective. After saving the human boy's life from being crushed by the train, he managed to convince me to follow him. I agreed more out of necessity than curiosity. My options for survival were severely limited on my own. Besides, the human had spoken the pony language, albeit awkwardly. How did he even know it? I climbed into the strange vehicle he called a sidecar, attached to a motorcycle. We arrived at a very odd-looking building. I didn't want to wait outside. I was terrified of what he had told me, not to mention cold. So I slipped inside to inspect the human's home, giving him a massive fright when he saw me standing there. Do you live with your parents? I asked. Yeah, he replied, looking somewhat embarrassed.